Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for being with us today. And we're going to be doing this review of the digital newsroom strategy. And this is being recorded, so for those of you who are missing it, then we'll send you an email as soon as it's up online. I seem to be getting a bit of an echo today, but I'm not sure where that's coming from. All right, so let's jump in and get started. To stop making a noise. Okay, I think that sounds a little better. So we're looking at this idea of a digital newsroom strategy. Hang on, I'm still getting that echo. Hold on one second. I'm going to see if I can deal with that. Hopefully that's better now. There we go. I think I've handled it. All right, so let's try again. We're looking at a digital newsroom strategy and why brands are starting to realize that they can publish content, be the media, that they need to be doing this. And in fact, it's really important, not only for dealing with the media, but for reaching out to the public. The public is also looking for this kind of newsroom approach to your content. So it's just a question of what are you going to do with your content, what kind of content are you posting, where are you hosting it, where are you housing it all, who are you creating content for, and it's fine that the big brands are doing this with big budgets and 10, 20 people in their PR department, but how could you as a smaller agency or small to mid-sized company do this? One of the reasons that they're doing this is because brands don't have to just advertise next to what we read, which is the old traditional approach. You would see content and you would see ads next to the relevant content. But now the brands absolutely can compete with traditional media. And you can break your own news. I saw a really interesting case study yesterday from Oregon University. Their athletic team has a very good newsroom, and one of their major athletes left the university, and as he said, if they had just left it alone, it would have got covered. They would have had no control over when it was released, how it was released, what was said, and it certainly wouldn't have come across as positively as it did when they wrote the story and released it in their own newsroom. So there are a lot of things that you can do today that was not possible before. And the fact that it's not only for the media, your newsroom, it's now also for the public. The public genuinely wants to see more information about how your product or service would fit into their lifestyle. Not just, this is my widget and this is what it does and these are all the wonderful features of my widget. No, you have to show them why your widget is important to what their needs and wants and aspirations are. So again, it's a bit of the old story of, you're not selling a drill, you're actually selling a hole in the wall to do some other thing in terms of decorating their home or their remodeling or whatever it is. That's why they want the drill. They don't really care that much about what the drill looks like or how marvelous it is. The reason they want it is because of something they want. So it's really important to figure out who you're talking to, who are you making content for, and why would they be looking for anything that you have? What's important to them? The same applies to the public and to the media. The media is looking for the same thing. They also need content relevant for their readers. So it's just a question that you can actually do it yourself, but you should. It's not a question of not giving content to the media. You need to do both. Red Bull is one brand that has been doing this very successfully for many, many years. They're not new to this at all. In fact, they have a complete media house that all they do is produce this kind of content around the extreme sports. That's what they're known for. People know that Red Bull does that. The whole idea of Red Bull gives you wings, it gives you energy. Whether I agree with that or not is irrelevant, but that's their brand statement, and that's the kind of thing that they're doing. So here's just one. They have lots of different sports. This is the surfing one. As you can see, it really looks like an online magazine. Coke has been doing this for a while. Their website looks very much like a magazine, and their content is all produced in one place. They now have an editorial team that's called Coke Zone. Again, these are the big brands. They can do this. They can have a whole media team, but it is possible to scale it. Just giving you another example, this is Marks & Spencer in England. They had a completely different website until a month ago, and they've gone to this new fashion magazine mock-up. Of course, everything that you see on here is available in their store, but they're telling a story. They're giving fashion advice. They're talking about a whole look rather than one item. They're writing fashion stories, and then everything in that story would be available from the store. Here's something from Lowe's. This is all about how to do home improvement projects. How do you do this? And then, of course, everything again is available in the store. Adidas has just decided that they're going to do this with all their brands. And the statement that they made in Marketing Week was very interesting. They said they've realized they have to do this so that they can be relevant to their audience and drive demand. That's why they're doing it. So yes, you should still be working with the media. You should be providing content that they can't cover anymore. Just take a look at the media outlets that you have on your wish list and see if there are gaps. Many of these big media companies have had to downsize their newsroom. They no longer have dedicated reporters for things like medical, travel. Some of them have fired all their photographers and videographers, and they're expecting the reporters to do it all. So for many of them, they don't have the resources to cover the kind of stories that you would like them to cover about your brand or your client. So what you should do is figure out a way where you can work with them and provide content that it's difficult for them to do. Some of them can't do in-depth stories anymore on their own. Some of them don't have access to experts and research. They don't have the capacity to produce complicated visuals, interactive maps, all that kind of thing. So there are a lot of opportunities here for you to produce really great content, put it in your newsroom, and make it available to both the public and the media. So what kind of content should you be covering in your newsroom? You need to act like a traditional newsroom. You need an editor. You need reporters. You need designers. If you don't have this kind of capacity in-house, it's not that difficult to learn to do this. Things have changed dramatically over the last couple of years. Part of the reason that the newspapers are saying we don't need videographers anymore is because pretty much anyone can take a fairly decent video on a smartphone. Yeah, it's not going to be broadcast quality, but bear in mind that every media outlet today is actually using video. It doesn't matter whether they're a TV station or not. Radio stations, magazines, newspapers, they all have a website. And websites use video, but they don't use broadcast video. So it's just a question of learning how to do it. And it's not rocket science. This is definitely not rocket science. We train companies how to do this in a couple of hours of workshops. So there's a wonderful book you can read called iPhonography, The Art of iPhonography. And I'll put that in the chat room in a bit for you so you can see it. That book just teaches you how to take amazing photographs with an iPhone. You can learn to think like a reporter. You can learn to think with visual storytelling. It's just a little bit of training, a little bit of new skill development. And then you can have people that are in your company or in your agency will be able to do this. You also have to be able to monitor and comment on industry news. So you need to have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in your industry. And you need to have your experts adding their opinions so that you produce thought leadership pieces. You could conduct interviews with other people in your industry. You could go to events, do some live coverage of conferences and events, report on the content, interview the speakers. Many brands have grown amazing thought leadership and visibility and exposure by doing this and putting all this content into their newsroom. So what makes it interesting? Why would the public want to come to a newsroom or the media? What makes a newsroom a really good newsroom? First and foremost, pardon me, it needs to have more than just press releases. So if your newsroom is simply a list of text press releases, it's really past time for an upgrade. You need to be producing original content and content that the media and the public really want, something that interests them, something for the media that they can say, oh, our readers and viewers will want this. This is new. This is interesting. It's something that has value. The public, as we said earlier, is going to want something that ties into things they're interested in and your product. You're obviously not there just simply to entertain them, but for instance, with Lowe's, it makes total sense that they would be doing a kind of a home and garden type thing. This is how you can change your patio now that it's spring. Do this, and guess where you're going to come and get all that stuff? Right here in our store. You've got to train your talent. You need good technology. You're not going to be able to do this without technology. And the two basic things that you need is a place to house all the content that you can control, something you can add content to very easily. You do not want to be at the mercy of your IT department. It's not something you can say, please post this for me. You need to be in control of it. Excuse me. So you need some kind of a newsroom, and we'll talk about how you do that. And then you're going to need a dashboard so that you can easily post and spread the content, email reporters, put it on all your social accounts, monitor what else is being said, monitor the industry, monitor your own keywords and your brand, respond to people that are talking about you so that you enter the conversation and you close the loop and you get reporting and you get stats, which leads us immediately into the data and the analytics. And it's vitally important to learn a little bit about data gathering and be able to read the data and do the analytics interpretation. Because it's no good just blindly posting and publishing content and you're not sure what's going on with it. Oh, great, we're posting content, we wrote 10 blog posts, we put up articles, we're doing videos, we've got it all over our social, we're good. Well, what if it's not the content that they want? What if no one's paying attention to it? How would you know? Unless you actually have some kind of analytics on the back end that you're keeping track of. And you can say, wow, when we posted this, it got picked up by so many people, it got retweeted so many times, we saw a huge spike in traffic, we saw clicks going into the website. That was a really great piece of content. Well, on the other hand, we made this video, which we thought was great. We really thought it would hit the spot, and it hasn't done anything, and we're not getting views, and it isn't showing up anywhere, and nobody cared. Well, guess what? You're not going to do that one anymore, but you'll do more of the other one. You also, with your analytics, can see who is linking to you, who's sending traffic, where did it come from. So the data and the analytics refines and drives your content and editorial strategy. So this is what a very big percentage of company newsrooms look like today. They're just a list of text press releases. You can see on the right-hand side they do have a corporate profile. They've got some exec biographies. There are a couple of other things over there. There is no image gallery. There's no video gallery. There are no pictures. There's nothing really to attract anybody. It doesn't look like a magazine. There's nothing to say what they're up to or why I should be interested in it. If I came here, I wouldn't really, I mean, it just doesn't appeal. So it doesn't appeal to the public, and it certainly doesn't appeal to the media anymore. They are so way past this, it's not even worth discussing. So if your newsroom does look like this, seriously, you need to think about upgrading it this year to something. Maybe, I don't know, you may not want to go to the biggest, fanciest newsroom, but you need to do something so that it doesn't just look like this. And if when you click those links, you go to a PDF, you absolutely have to do something about it. Today, I believe there's a new survey out from Business Wire with a survey of journalists, and one of the things that she said yesterday, was on a webinar with Aubrey Woodall yesterday, where she said that journalists definitely do not want to see PDFs in a newsroom. So here's one from Swedish hospitals. Now, I happen to know that Swedish is doing really, really good content. They are implementing this strategy I spoke of earlier, where you work with the media and you help them because they don't have as much medical coverage as they used to have before. And they're doing a great job on that. But when you look at their newsroom, it's very blah. It just doesn't have anything to recommend it. There's no visual. None of that wonderful content is being shown here. Look at this one from Vanderbilt University. Now, these guys did a great job. They built this in WordPress, actually. And you can do it in WordPress. Just don't fool yourself that because it's WordPress, it's going to be free. WordPress on its own doesn't look like this. You can make it look like this, but you need a programmer who understands WordPress and understands what you need in a newsroom and what needs to be there and how to do it. And then you need that person available in case anything ever breaks, or you need tech support, or your staff needs training on how to use it, or whatever. So yes, WordPress is a free platform, but it's not going to work for you as a free platform because it doesn't do what you need. You're going to need some support, particularly for a company. A company can't operate just with their whole newsroom with no support and no training. But it can make a really great newsroom. That is one option. So let's look at how a small business would be able to do this. First and foremost, you need to get really smart with the technology. Find a hosted newsroom that has lots of visual features. And then train your team so that they are curating industry news and creating original content around your brand and the interests of your media list and your publics. Come on, we need to move. There we go. So here's Jelly Belly. They have done this with their newsroom. It does match up to their site. They have a couple of different categories of content. But as you can see, they're doing things like 17 Shades of Green for St. Paddy's Day. And they just recently, they've got a new post up there now, which is about a beer-flavored Jelly Belly. But they've got images. And this was one from Doubletree where they were talking about destinations around their hotels. So there's another example of how you don't necessarily, sorry about that. You don't necessarily have to talk about your property and everything that goes on in your property. You can talk about what's around you and what's of interest to the people that come to your property. And as you can see, it's very visual. They had lots of videos and interesting things going on. Here's one from a completely conservative company. It's a financial services company in New York State. But they too have images, they have videos, they have their company news, but they also have news about financial literacy, retirement planning, all based around the interests and the lifestyle of the people that are their clients. And this is the Convention and Visitor Bureau of Winston-Salem in North Carolina. Now, they did a very interesting thing with their newsroom. They opened it to all the travel and tourism related businesses in the town. So they're getting content from hotels, restaurants, conventions, museums, events, tour operators. So they have a wealth of content, but they also did a really, really good job of promoting their newsroom and the fact that journalists and bloggers can subscribe to the feeds of all this content. They spent about 3 or 4 months vigorously promoting the fact that they had this newsroom and that this content is available. And after that, every time they just put a story into their newsroom, because all these people are being automatically notified, it makes it really easy for them to get more coverage, and they're getting a lot more coverage. The one hotel PR lady said to me, oh, it's marvelous, all I do now is put my story into the Winston-Salem newsroom and then just sit back and see the Google alerts rolling in of people who've picked up that content. So, you know, the newsroom, a great newsroom on its own won't necessarily bring you traffic and SEO and coverage. It's a bit like buying a Ferrari and parking it in your driveway. If you don't ever get in it and drive it and let people know that you have it, nothing's ever going to happen. But once you do that, it is a bit of a 1-2 step dance, and then you do get the results. So what are these results? You get more traffic, you get more media coverage, and you definitely get more engagement. So here's an example of the SEO results that you could get. That financial services company that I mentioned to you, when you do a search for them, you'll see that their newsroom comes up number 2. Oh, sorry. Hang on a second. There we go. Yeah, so you can see that the newsroom comes up at number 2. And that is very helpful for when the media is looking for you, because the media has said many times that when they're looking for the news about a company and they're looking for their press or media section, it's so well hidden they can't find it. So this way they wouldn't even have to go to the main site. It's right there. They can see, oh, there's the newsroom, so I'll go and check that out. On Bing, it shows up a little differently. It shows up underneath their main listing at the top, but it still shows up the newsroom link. And even individual articles are showing up in search. So this was an interesting graph of traffic. This is from Google Trends, the graph. And you can see back in 2007 when the company started, prior to that there was no traffic to their site, obviously. So they started, the traffic jumped up and it was up and down and pretty flattish for a long time. And then they added a newsroom, and look what it did. It went up, up, up. And then they stopped publishing content regularly, and it's just gone back down to the normal range again. So that is a very interesting example of what can happen when you have a newsroom. So this CMA report, 37% of marketing managers that they surveyed said the most important way to engage customers is with content-led websites. And Nielsen says that almost 60% of consumers trust editorial content rather than, here's our brand, these are our widgets, this is what they do. The editorial content is the stories and how customers are using it, how it could fit into their lifestyle. And more than half of the brands said increased engagement is the #1 value of content. So yes, you still have to work with the media. This is from Winston-Salem. So as I said, you know, that's what they said. The media coverage just comes rolling in. But that's once you've actually worked with the media and made them aware that you do have this newsroom. The old story of if you invent a better mousetrap, people will beat a path to your door. Well, you know, actually they might, dependent on 2 things. They need to know that you have the mousetrap, and they need to know where your door is. If they don't know those 2 things, they're never going to beat a path to your door. It doesn't matter how marvelous your newsroom is. The reason you need to combine your newsroom with a social dashboard There was an article out today about how Wells Fargo has just set up a social command center. This is another thing that the big brands are all doing. And again, because they have big pockets and lots of resources, it's a whole command center with several people in it watching all the time what's being said about them. On a smaller scale, if you have a great use of technology, get smart with technology and tools, you can have a dashboard that will do all these things. You can import your media lists. You can email your reporters and editors every time you have anything you want to tell them. You can post directly to all your social accounts, not the same content necessarily, but you can, I'll show you how it works. You can schedule the posts. You can monitor, it'll be pulling in all the mentions of brands and keywords that you set up. So this does this whole social command center for you. And you can respond directly out of the dashboard and measure everything. And it has easy automatic reporting. That is closing the loop and making your content publishing in your newsroom have value so that you can show that value to your client or your C-suite. So I'm going to show you the actual dashboard. Just let me get there. And I want to go here. So this is what the dashboard looks like. And you can set up in the top here the different things that you want to post to. So all you have to do is say, I want to put this on my Twitter account, and then you write in here and you say what you want to do, whichever you're doing. And then you can add a URL here. You can just click this, shrink and insert so that it will put it in as a bit.ly link. You can add a photo or file. And then all you do is hit send and it'll go straight to your Twitter account. If you don't want it to go right away, there is a scheduling feature. If you want a specific time, just hit any one of these and then go along here and change the date and change the time so that it'll go exactly when you want it to. And then down here, instead of send, it changes to schedule. You will see all the ones under here that you have scheduled. So you can check. If things don't go through, they will show up here in the bounced section. If you've got drafts that you haven't sent yet, they will be showing up here. And then when you're ready to send them, you can send them. Also, perhaps for approval, if you want to make drafts and they need to be approved, you can put them in there. Now, on the monitoring, you can set up keywords here for your brand and different keywords. And then you'll be able to see who is talking about you, and you can reply and respond directly from here. And it'll give you immediately a little sentiment dashboard. You can assign this. Oh, sorry, I have to pick one. So there we go. Now I can say I want to send this to Mary or whoever, and I can say, please reply to this person. They're upset, handle them, blah, blah, and I can assign it to them. And then you have the reporting. So you get a little scorecard straight away that tells you, are your interactions up or down? Has your audience gone up or down? Is your influence going up? And are your clicks going up? And then you can set up what things you want to see in here. You can build a custom dashboard. So you can pick how you want it to look, and you can pick what should go in it. And once you have that, you can actually export all of this as well. You can change the date range. You can print it. You can export it. So there's a tremendous amount you can do with this. And then with the newsroom, we obviously recommend that you use Pressfeed. That's our hosted newsroom that we built. And you can go into the back end and let me just go here. Right, so you can see these were the first three under the news releases. So if you go in the back end, under West Bay News, there they are. So everything that you've posted will be in your database in the back end of your newsroom. And you can add an item, or you can easily go in here and edit these items. You can add images in them. You've got all this here. You can make links, do all your editing in here. And you've got a media gallery, and this is where you would add your images and your videos in here. You've got a section for media coverage. You've got a section for events. You have a section for contacts, so you can make an expert database in here. And when you set up a contact in here, there's a lot of information you can put in. You don't have to put it all in, but it is available for you there if you want to. You can put their Twitter account. You can say whether they're an executive or press. Then you can add more of the bio. You can add media files, so you can take a little video clip of the expert and put the video in with them as well. And then these are your links for adding your social. So you've got Facebook and Pinterest and whatever's all in there. So it's very, very easy and simple to use. So you would be posting all your content and your visuals and your videos into your newsroom. You can have your Facebook feed coming in. You can have your Twitter feed coming in. And then you can have your dashboard so that as soon as you've posted it, you can easily go into your inbox, and then you can just post and say, I want this to go on Twitter, and I want that one to go on Facebook, I want this one to go on LinkedIn. I'm going to email my list of journalists, and then you can watch and see what responses you're getting, and you can see the reporting of how well it's doing. So that's the digital strategy. The idea is that you need to know who your audiences are, what they're interested in, how your products and services would fit into their lifestyles and aspirations, figure out a content strategy of what kind of content would interest them and how you can produce articles that would show them why they should be using your products, your whatever it is. So if you look at the fashion, they're doing fashion articles. If it's a tech company, it would be things relevant to what they're trying to accomplish with the tech product. You just need to figure out what it is that you can produce that fits into the interests and lifestyle of your audiences, the media and the public. If you don't have anybody who can produce that kind of content, if you have the budget, partner with somebody that's a good content agency who knows how to do this, or find people within your organization or your agency that are interested in this and get them trained. It's not that hard, really. Particularly for someone who is PR oriented, is probably a good writer. If you have the budget, hire a journalist, because so many of them are out of work. They've been laid off. More than a third of all the journalists in the US have been laid off. So you could actually hire a journalist and get them working for you. Make sure that you have one who has a big Twitter following so that you at least get some value out of it. But that's the basic strategy of why you need this digital newsroom. As Adidas said, we're doing it because we have to. We've got to remain relevant, and we know that this is how to drive engagement and demand. So as you see the big brands doing this, it applies to the smaller brands as well. Every business, that's what people want. This is what does drive engagement and demand. So it's a very valid strategy. It can be done by a small business. It's not cost prohibitive. To have a newsroom like this and a dashboard will be less than $500 a month. If you have one person who's going to do this, be the editor and the writer and the photographer and the videographer, you'd have to figure that out, or maybe it's somebody who's already in your company who can do it, or you're going to have to get a budget together and hire somebody from outside. But it is possible to do it. I've seen small agencies with a handful of people doing this extremely well. So if you'd like to have a more in-depth demo of the newsroom and the dashboard and an evaluation of your current newsroom, just send me an email and we'd be more than happy to help you. So thanks very much for joining us today. That's the webinar, and we will have the recording up in about 3 or 4 days. This deck is already on SlideShare, so you can find it there. And we will be sending you all an email with the link to the deck and the video. Thanks very much. That's the end of this webinar.